Orion at Kings Island is a new for 2020 coaster that isn't getting enough hype. This coaster actually looks really good, and it's a shame that it isn't getting the attention that it deserves. I believe this coaster will be a great ride, but how good? How good is Orion going to be? And how does it stack up against other Giga coasters like Fury 325? In this video, I'm going to be talking about all that and more, and answering the question of, is Orion a World Class Giga Coaster? Let me start off by saying that we should by no means make our decision about Orion before we actually get out to ride this thing. And let me also make it clear that even though I'm going to be comparing this to Fury 325 and other Giga coasters, that it doesn't mean anything yet until you actually experience it for yourself. And before watching this video, you should also take into account that this coaster isn't supposed to be Fury 325, or any other Giga coaster for that matter. Orion is its own ride with its own unique features and elements. Now that that's over with, let's get to the ride itself. This ride is 287 feet tall and has a drop of 300 feet. This is kind of like how Apollo's Chariot isn't 200 feet, but because its drop is 210 feet, it's considered a hypercoaster. And don't worry, I'll get to the is it a Giga Coaster debate in a little bit, because I have a lot to say about that. Anyway, this ride is 91 miles an hour, and the entire ride duration lasts just a little over 3 minutes. Granted, most of that is taken up by the slow lift hill. Now let's get to the layout. The layout of this coaster is basically an out and back layout that's just a little more twisty. In fact, this layout is pretty similar to every other B&M hypercoaster that has an out and back layout, just on a much larger scale. One thing that makes this coaster unique, however, is that it has what looks like to be a type of wave turn. It's a little different than most wave turns because it feels more drawn out, but it's basically a giant twisted airtime hill. I think this will be a standout moment of the ride. Like I've said before in this channel, sideways airtime is something you need to experience to truly understand, so I expect this element to be great. Other than that, the rest of this coaster is basically just a regular hypercoaster layout, just larger, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Now let's look at how this ride stacks up against other Giga coasters. Obviously, the coasters that I'm going to be comparing it to are the other two B&M Giga coasters, Leviathan and Fury 325. Out of these three rides, Orion is going to be the slowest at 91 miles an hour, and the shortest with 100 less feet of track than Leviathan, but I don't really think you'll be able to feel the 1 mile difference in speed between Leviathan and Orion, or really notice the extra 100 feet of track. So I'd say Orion is basically comparable to Leviathan when it comes to stats. The place where they differ is the layout. A layout can make or break a coaster. All three of these coasters have different layouts. Fury and Leviathan start off with a drop and then you go into a type of turn, while Orion you go into that wave turn thingy I talked about earlier. From there, all three coasters go their different ways and eventually end up back in the station after providing an airtime filled experience. So these three coasters have completely different layouts, so we can't really dissect each one, but Fury seems to be the strongest, while Orion and Leviathan seem to be comparable. So in truth, there's no way to compare these three coasters because their layouts are all so different. But with that being said, when Orion opens, I expect Fury 325 to still be the king of the Giga coasters. The real question is Orion going to be better than Leviathan? And I don't know yet. Personally, I haven't ridden Leviathan and don't know how it's going to stack up against Orion. So if I was just going to go with my gut and make a guess basing it off of the POVs, I would say it's a very close race, but I would expect the majority of coaster enthusiasts to end up liking Orion better, and here's the reason why. The majority of coaster enthusiasts already have the idea in their mind that this coaster is going to be an underwhelming ride, and it's really hard to get hyped up about a ride that has so much hate from YouTubers. So certain people will go to ride this ride with really low expectations. And everyone knows that if you ride a ride with really low expectations, it's really easy for that ride to blow your mind, even if it's just relatively good. And luckily for us, I do think this ride will be really good. I'm picturing this ride to be in a lot of people's top 10. Out of all the Giga coasters, my guess is that this will take third place, after Fury 325 and Intimidator 305. Now the final point I want to make is about the stupid debate on if this coaster is a Giga coaster or not, because the drop is 300 feet and the height isn't. For the record, I just want to say this entire debate is stupid. It's obviously a Giga coaster, just like Apollo's Chariot is a hypercoaster. I mean, to be honest, if Kings Island literally just lied and said the ride is 301 feet, probably no one would ever know. In fact, who knows the actual height of this ride? It could be 299.9 feet. It doesn't even make a difference, and it doesn't change the actual ride experience at all. This entire debate has gotten so stupid, and I literally actually heard someone say something along the lines of, it isn't a Giga Coaster because in the winter steel shrinks and it would lose 2 inches and be shorter than 300 feet, so it's actually only a Giga Coaster in the summer. Some people seriously need to chill. Anyway, Orion in my opinion is going to be a world-class coaster. Not better than Fury, but nevertheless an amazing ride. I would expect it to be on many people's top 25s, if not even top 10. Orion is a classic example of how enthusiasts need to be less picky and complain less. This is an amazing coaster that isn't getting the amount of hype it deserves, and that's truly a shame, because Kings Island did their best with what they could do and had to work with. But who knows, once everyone gets out to ride these things, maybe everyone's opinion will change. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see content just like this every week, and comment your thoughts on Orion in the comments below. This is The Coaster Josh, signing out.